YouTubers and cinephiles, welcome back to another edition of Nerd With Me Reviews. I'm John Ricky. Today we're doing something new, and we probably should have done this months ago. You are now listening to our first television review, and to start it off, might as well go with a phenomenon that just dropped a week ago. The bringing back the 80s in full force phenomenon, horror, possibly classic television series on Netflix who is killing it, Stranger Things. So, since I didn't get a chance to review Stranger Things Season 1, let's talk a little bit about Season 1 before I move on to Season 2. And let's just say that Stranger Things, when it first came out, I'm like, oh, what's this? Okay, so it's in the 80s, so about kids. I'm like, alright, cool, that's going to be great. Man, I watched that. I couldn't take my eyes off it, man. I finished it in one sitting. It was amazing. Winona Ryder is back, and it's actually perfect for her to come back in this type of vehicle because she was big and prominent and really coming into her own during the 80s through the 90s and everything like that. So it's perfect that she brings back with a throwback to 80s nostalgia. The series is created by the Duffer Brothers. I haven't heard of anything that they've done beforehand. Wow. I mean, they actually wanted to do the It film, but situations, they didn't have enough experience, and they're like, all right, well, we'll make our own It / I Love the 80s type of series, and man, they killed it. I mean, this show, if you grew up in the 80s or at any time, if you were a teenager in the 80s or if you were just like a toddler in the 80s, like me, I'm a mid-80s kid, and I came in around like the end of it. I remember Goonies, watching those on VHS. I know some of y'all young people don't know what that is. So much stuff. Anyway, here's the synopsis. Synopsis is a group of kids, nerd kids, discover getting embroiled in government conspiracies that involve dimensions and monsters. They're big D&D fans, biggest nerds in a little town of Hawkins, Indiana. Just used to their small town life until they meet a mysterious little girl who calls herself 11, who they come to call her Elle. And then the mayhem begins. First things first, this show is, if you don't know anything about the 80s, you will learn from this show. I mean, the first season, you get a whole bunch of references to Rubik's Cubes, arcades, Dungeons and Dragons, so on and so forth. A lot of nerd culture. You can tell there's a lot of love in this show. And there's a lot of references. If you see them, you'll know some right away, and if you know these films. Like, there's a lot of references to, like, classics like E.T., Stand By Me, It, Goonies, whole hodgepodge. With anything, if anybody else did this, to be honest, it probably would have fell on its face and just would have felt, like, heavy-handed. But the way it's written by the Duffer Brothers and their team of writers, they incorporate this 80s shtick seamlessly with the storyline. And the music, it just feels like it came from that era with the synth sound that just sounds straight out of vintage 80s, and everything about it is just great. But the writing is so pitch perfect. Everything fits together. Everything has themes of like duality and parallel universes, and is really, really intelligent and smart. And not only that, throughout all these themes and plot twists, which are amazing, you get great characters. The whole series really centers around these four boys, Will, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin. And these are the four kids that befriend the character Elle. Turns out she's a part of a big government experiment that's being run in their small town, dealing with expanding the mind. And of course, Elle, turns out she has psychokinetic powers as well as telepathy and so on and so forth. And man, look, I gotta tell you, these cast of characters, the actors that are playing these parts, Finn Wolfhard playing Mike, Millie Bobby Brown as the girl Elle, or 11. And Winona Ryder, David Harbour as the chief sheriff, Jim Hopper. I mean, they're all incredible. But the linchpin of this whole show is on those kids. And all 5 of them are phenomenal and just work so well together. They keep you going. They give you comedies, and that's one of the great things about this series. The fact that it is a whole hodgepodge of all genres. You know, you get your comedy, you get your suspense, thriller, horror, fantasy melded in there with the D&D, drama with Winona Ryder missing her son who's stuck in what they call the upside down. That's big drama. Mystery with what the hell is the upside down. Horrific situations, the adventure, the intrigue. I mean, this thing has it all in spades, and it works so well. This is definitely a show that's in like my top 10 shows as of right now, even though it's only had one good season before now. And yes, it is a really, really good start. Let's hope it keeps it going. And the way season 1 ends, I mean, it ends on a cliffhanger that you're just like, oh. And by the end of season 1, you're just like, you're in tears, you're happy, you're just exhausted in a good way from everything you got. You got through all the emotions from sadness to happiness to excitement, and you're just like, dear God, I want more. Please and thank you. And now we have season 2, which we have been patiently or feverishly waiting for. And how does it measure up to the first season? It's a solid second one, man, I'll tell you. Now, the second season starts off about a year after the events of the first season. And Will Byers is kind of getting reacquainted with being back, but you know, he's still dealing with certain things that happen in the upside down. Basically, he's the PTSD victim of the group, and he's having flashbacks and seeing the other side and periodically, and he might have birthed villain of the first season which was what they called a Demogorgon. And that's what I liked about this season, the fact that Will Byers was basically just like the MacGuffin, the plot point that jump-started the whole thing, because his disappearance jump-started the whole series in the first season. Now, this season, like, he's a lot more involved, because last season he was, you know, sparingly there, so good on that. I'm glad he's getting involved. I'm glad they're not really pulling I like to call it the Doug effect of Hangover, where it's like, oh, yeah, he was the point of the plot, but he wasn't in there until the end. And then the second one comes out and it's the same damn thing. He's not involved again. And it's like, oh, okay, so this one, he has more to do. And that in turn also leads to his mother, played by Winona Ryder, to have a lot more to do. And her character arc in this second season is it's different, you know, because in the first one, she was just the grieving, possibly psychotic mother that everyone saw as like, oh, she's losing her mind because she lost her kid, so on and so forth. But in this one, she's just a little bit overprotective, you know, and for good reason, because he went through an ordeal. They all went through an ordeal last year, and it's very understandable. And she's all about that. I'm protecting Will by any means necessary. Mother bear, lift the car, so on and so forth, whatever it takes. And again, great writing in this series. I mean, they really know how to delve into these characters, and the dynamic of at least the kids in the second season is expanded upon, and they're actually more spread out a lot of the times, but it really works with these characters' development, particularly with the characters that didn't really get enough character development in the first season, which was Dustin and Lucas. They have this whole love triangle with this new character, new girl. I can't remember her name right now, but she's good too, and she eventually becomes, she's going to become part of the group, so on and so forth. And it's a really good dynamic. She has her own situation going on. I'm like, with her brother, who was the same age as Steve Harrington, who in the first season was like the resident bully, and actually he has a really, really good character arc, because he could have just been this typical, he's the boyfriend of one of the main teen girls who's Mike's older sister, and she's in kind of like a romance triangle with Will Byers' older brother and Steve Harrington. Now, in the first season, Steve Harrington was your typical jock. Oh, yeah, whatever, he's the asshole, blah, 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 blah. But, man, he has a really good character arc where he's become something else, and he really is steadily becoming a very, very good character. And I really liked him a lot in this season. The sheriff, Jim Hopper, he has a secret, and you find out what it is. It involves Eleven, and David Harbour owns this character. I can't wait to see him in Hellboy, the new rendition of Hellboy, so that would be pretty interesting. But this season is, it's a slow starter, and I like that, and for the fact that it revs up, it's just like the original one where it revved up, so on and so forth, and really builds to a crescendo that is so well worth it. They really cranked up the H.P. Lovecraftian type of themes and situations that happen, dealing with monsters from the other side that are from like maybe a space in between worlds or something, like in between dimensions, and creatures that are so scary that you can't even fathom, which makes it like just really, really intriguing. I mean, that's a different type of monster. But you know what? There's a little flaw in that, for the fact that, okay, this thing is connected to the Demogorgons, and it kind of feels like it's going over the same thing, but still it is enjoyable. One flaw with this series, and it's in the second season, like next to the last episode, I believe it's called The Lost Girl. They introduced this certain character that's connected to Elle in a particular way, and she seems like a good character to bring about, but the way they introduce her, it kind of feels like tacked on a little bit, and that whole episode just feels like fluff filler. They could have condensed to maybe 15 minutes, and it probably would have been better if they had that character within Hawkins, because she gotta like go away or something like that, and it just seemed like a filler episode. But it's a well-directed episode, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, really, why are we here? Let's get on to the situation, so on and so forth. But all in all, the way it comes to an end, it was awesome. Just the fact that you love these characters, and the way the climax went, you're feeling emotional, you're like, oh my god, is this gonna happen, is that gonna happen? And it's amazing. I found myself tearing up a little bit by the end of the climax, and the end was nice, sweet, but at the same time, it almost felt like they were ending the series a little bit, at least in my opinion. And then they set up for the third one, which I was like, are they really going that way? Either way, it doesn't matter, because I am intrigued. I am enthralled by this series. I can't wait for the third season. Can't wait to see what they do. Wait to see where they go. And this series is incredible, and it deserves the highest praise. I give Stranger Things Season 1 and 2 a great big
I'll be back.
Yeah, man, if you haven't seen this series, get on it, man. You will be happy, you'll be sad, you'll be intrigued. You won't be able to put it down. It has 17 episodes. You'll burn right through them. Netflix and chill, whatever the hell you do. But you will enjoy Stranger Things by the Duffer Brothers. Can't wait to see what else they bring to the table. If they bring a new series, or if they do a movie, that I'm signed up. They're like the horror version of the Coen Brothers as of right now. So I can't wait to see what they do. And check out Stranger Things on Netflix. Get Netflix. Get the Blu-ray if you want to. It's amazing and totally worth it. Anyway, thanks again, YouTubers and Cinephiles. Check you later.